Welcome to Worship Rekindled, a space for leaders who are tired of performance and hungry for presence. I'm your host, Sarah Hernandez. Today we're stepping into some tender territory. What happens when our calling to lead worship collides with a culture preoccupied with platform? If you've ever found yourself discouraged by the comparison game, worn down by chasing relevance, or quietly wondering whether your worship ministry matters, this conversation is for you. I don't think most of us got into worship ministry because we wanted to be famous. Most of us said yes to a small group or a Sunday or a last-minute fill-in. We fell in love with being in the presence of God and the call to lead others into it. But somewhere along the way, the landscape shifted. Suddenly, for many, worship leading became a brand, and congregations became audiences, and our calling got tangled up in the pursuit of the elusive platform. There's nothing inherently wrong with influence or visibility or excellence, but when our identity becomes dependent on being seen, when the goal shifts from forming worshipers to gaining attention, something is out of order. Let me take you back. I was a child who craved attention. I would dress up and dance around the house, put on little plays, and I would light up whenever someone noticed what I was wearing or praised something I had done. I loved being seen. I loved being affirmed. Years later, I was serving at a megachurch with a massive stage, state-of-the-art production, and a worship culture that felt big and important. I was in grad school working on my master's degree in music, and I really wanted to be taken seriously. I longed to be respected for my knowledge and ability. And truly, I loved leading people in worship. I loved helping others respond to God, being part of a creative team, connecting with speakers and worshipers from around the country. But in the background, something subtle started creeping in. I started measuring my value by how many people complimented me after service, or how often I was mentioned in meetings, or how many opportunities I was being given. And when someone else got the opportunity I wanted, I felt forgotten. I wanted to be humble. I wanted to lead from a place of servant-heartedness, but the truth is, I also wanted the spotlight. There was a tension in me. I wanted to be deeply formed, but I also wanted to be noticed and celebrated. Eventually, I was hired part-time on staff as creative arts director for the children's ministry. I was told I would help raise up new worship leaders, build a bridge between worship and discipleship. It sounded ideal. But the reality? It felt like a door opened with promise and slammed shut behind me. While the children's pastor I worked with was wonderful, and I had creative freedom, I was completely separated from the worship community I'd helped build. I had no support from the worship team, and if I'm honest, I missed the spotlight. God began doing deep heart work in me. He was beginning to strip away the need for accolades, visibility, and recognition. He was inviting me to serve children, to disciple the least visible group in the church, to love the people I served more than I loved the platform I had left behind. It wasn't painless, and I didn't always get it right. For 2 years, I served in that capacity, but by the end, I was burnt out. I had also been teaching full-time, 50 hours a week, and working part-time for the church, and then I became a new mom. I had overextended myself. I was exhausted, isolated, and honestly, heartbroken. I struggled to worship. I struggled to sing, even privately. But slowly, something sacred began to happen. Worship returned, but not on a stage. It returned in my living room as I held my baby in my arms and I sang. not because I had to lead, not because I was scheduled, but because gratitude was finally beginning to replace some of my exhaustion. And I realized God is still forming me, maybe even more deeply in the hidden place than he had on the platform. Here's the truth that hits deep if we let it. The goal of worship leadership is not applause, it's formation. We are being formed, and we are forming others through every song we choose, every prayer we pray, every act of service we offer. Whether we realize it or not, our gatherings are shaping hearts, and they're shaping ours too. In Paul's letter to the Galatians, he's correcting some questionable behavior they've begun to display as a result of others who had misunderstood how Christian communities should act, influencing their community. This diverse Christian community had both Jewish and Gentile believers and was learning how to follow Christ together despite differences of culture and practice. Paul writes in Galatians 4:19, "I am again in the pains of childbirth until Christ is formed in you." Paul had labored to teach the Galatians the ways of Christ, only to see them miss the point. In this case, it was an issue of whether or not Gentile believers had to be circumcised. But what is important here is that the Galatians had missed the forest for the trees. They were supposed to be focused on following Christ, not arguing about who was following Jewish law. Have you ever missed the point? I know I have. Paul's correction stands for us today. We need Christ to be our focus. That's the goal. Not that we would be known, but that Christ would be formed in us and in those we lead. John the Baptist put it simply in John 3:30. He must increase, but I must decrease. That is the heart of worship. Not just the music, not just the leadership, all of it. He must increase. But here's the hard part. Formation is slow, hidden. It doesn't always get noticed. And that's where platform culture starts whispering lies. Platform culture says, be impressive. Jesus says, be faithful. Platform culture says, make a name for yourself. Jesus says, lose your life and you'll find it. The temptation is real. We start believing we are what we produce, that our value is in our visibility, that our ministry only matters if it's gaining traction. But that is not kingdom thinking. That's hustle culture wearing church clothes. If we're not careful, performance mentality can be dangerous because it turns God's work into our platform. We move from cultivating hearts to curating appearances, from formation to performance, from surrender to self-promotion. Here's the invitation. Hold influence loosely. Use tools like technology or social media wisely, but never let them define our worth. Lead with open hands and hearts rooted in God. Because what we lead people into will be shaped by what's happening in us. I think of leaders like Eugene Peterson, who resisted the spotlight and publishing fame so he could quietly, faithfully pastor his small church. Or Rich Mullins, who lived simply and anonymously even when his music reached millions. I remember my grandfather, who turned down opportunities to pastor large, successful churches, and instead worked as a painter and handyman to support his family while pastoring small, rural churches that needed a healing touch. Their lives remind me faithfulness isn't flashy, and formation isn't fast, but it is worth it. The goal isn't applause, it's formation. We are being formed and forming others through every prayer, every song, every choice we make in our worship gathering. Let's take a few moments for examine. Grab your journal or your phone and let these questions sit with you. The first is this: when have I felt the need to be noticed or affirmed in ministry? And here's the second: when have I served faithfully in secret, and how did God meet me there? Let these questions guide your prayer this week. God is always more interested in our hearts than our highlight reels. As we end our time together, receive this blessing drawn from John 3:30 and Micah 6:8. May God increase in you, and may your striving be seen to decrease. May your life be marked not by platform but by presence. And may you walk humbly, love mercy, and act justly, quietly and faithfully, in the places where no one but God is watching. And here is your charge: go into the world and live a life so rooted in the love of God that even in the hidden places, you bear fruit that will last. This has been Worship Rekindled with your host, Sarah Hernandez. For more, please visit our website at www.worshiprekindled.com.